This is going to be the best episode
Let's get
we've
on a
ever done.
flight.
If I told you that I could get you around the world to pretty much any location, pretty much in any time zone, without feeling horribly tired, you would say,
Sign me up.
I have spent 10 to 15 years of my life traveling every single week. One of the biggest conundrums in business travel for airlines. Points, yes. Status, no.
Right, okay.
The hotels, it's the other way around. We will get on a plane and we will go anywhere.
Hello, I'm Chris Lissaman and welcome to Sparks, a series by Interactive Workshops. In every episode, we spark something in work and life, from how to spark culture, to how to spark teamwork, to how to spark travel.
This is going to be the best episode
Let's get on a flight.
I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. Chris,
we're going to talk travel. We're going to talk travel tips. I'm going to get your thoughts on the best way to travel, how to avoid jet lag, how to get the upgrades, how to acclimatise when you're in the new environment, all of that stuff.
Chris, I have spent 10 to 15 years of my life traveling every single week, and it has taken me from possibly one of the most terrifying hotels I've ever slept in, that was just a bedroom in someone's house in Stockport, to Sentosa Beach in Singapore, the high life, the highlights, the sun, the sand, the sea, the suntan. We're going to talk about travel and travel hacks.
There we go.
And if the Sparks
Codcast.
If the Sparks podcast was born for anything, it was born for this topic.
There we go. Business travel. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Where do we start?
Chris, jet lag.
Jet lag. It's the number one thing people talk about when they've travelled, when they're about to travel.
How do you feel if I told you that I could get you around the world to pretty much any location, pretty much in any time zone, without feeling horribly tired? You would say,
you're a magician.
Sign me up.
Yeah, sign me up.
So for many years, I didn't really know how to do this, and that's because I was a novice, Chris.
Yeah, you were new to the game.
I was new to the game. I can tell you my first ever business trip, proper intercontinental, went to America, the land of the brave and the home of the free. And I had to go to South Carolina. I flew to Washington. I had a very long layover. And I arrived in Spartanburg at what would have been 5 a.m. English time, feeling like I had done 16 rounds with Muhammad Ali, exhausted, bloodshot eyes, thinking, why did I do this? I'd had a very long layover. I'd had 4 or 5 hours in Washington. I felt awful, knowing that it was 5 a.m. and I basically had to do a day's work that day. Can you see where I was going wrong here?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, jet lag is incredible. It's something that people, I think, fear, but they also embrace. I know my goodly, godly wife, when she used to fly back from America, when she worked there, she would go out on a big night out and then get a late flight and then have like 4 hours sleep and then arrive in London wondering why she felt like, really bad.
Yeah.
But jet lag. So
how do we conquer it? What were we doing wrong?
What we got to do with jet lag, I believe, is very simple. And I got some great advice from former Special Forces soldier Steve Eaton about sleep. Sleep, we should think, how much do we need in 24 hours? And we shouldn't worry too much about whether we get it all in one go or in bits. Obviously, it's better for you to get it all in one go. But if you're traveling, you might need to get it in bits. And I try to summon up the spirit of the shift worker who sometimes has to get 4 hours sleep and sometimes has to change their body clock. It's not brilliantly healthy for you to do it all the time, but if they can do it, we can do it. And for me, when I'm traveling, I try to work out how I'm going to get all the sleep I need in 24 hours and use that as the basis of my travel plan, bearing in mind that it's very hard to fall asleep if you're awake.
Yeah, it's arguably never more difficult than when you're awake.
If you imagine if you're very, very wide awake and you tried to go for a night's sleep, that wouldn't necessarily work that well, would it? So when I'm coming back from the US and I'm flying from the west to the east, or if I'm going from London and I'm going to go to Singapore, I'm going to try and take a flight where when I need to sleep, it's the time where I should be asleep. In that case, if I'm flying to China, it's 12 and a half hours flight away. I could take an evening flight, and provided I could doze off, I could get 4, 5, 6, 7 hours sleep. When I'm supposed to be asleep, I could get to sleep. If I took a morning flight, I'm probably not going to fall asleep because I've been in England. I've been at interactive workshops. I'm wide awake. I'm probably not going to sleep for the full 12 hours, and I'm going to arrive there at 6 o'clock in the evening, and I may be quite tired, and I may then go to sleep, and then I'm going to be waking up at 3 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah.
So try and picking the flight time is step one. When I'm traveling to the US, I've got a cheat code for that, which I try and travel in the daytime. Arrive there, have a little nap on the plane, because when you're traveling from east to west, the day gets longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. 24 hours there, plus 6 hours, 30-hour day. I don't need 8 hours sleep. I need 10 hours sleep to get me through those 30 hours.
Right.
So I'll try and take 2 on the plane, arrive into the US, having had a couple of hours sleep. Just after lunch at the right moment when the body is able to take a nap, I'll take a little nap. And then I'll arrive into America, hopefully 6, 7 o'clock at night. Maybe I'm quite tired, go straight to bed, then wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning, and I will feel euphoric because I've had all the sleep I need. Yes, it's quite early, and I'll try not to have a booked-in appointment the next evening when I've got to be out late, because again, that's going to really screw me up. So I'm using the body's rhythms in combination with flight timings. And then obviously, if you can get a business class, that's great. Think of a bed, someone there to rub your back. They used to have that on Virgin. They used to have a masseuse on board.
Wow.
It was a waste of money. But I'm trying to get a business class flight, but not to the extent where I have to. If you're in economy, then there's a little bit of personal discipline needed. And that is to realize that, and this again, I've worked with the sleep guys to try and get my mindset right on this. So there's level 1. Have you got an Apple Watch, Samsung sleep monitor?
Yeah.
So now everyone knows about it. So
yeah.
There's light sleep, and there's deep sleep, and there's REM sleep.
Yep.
When you're in light sleep on a plane, you feel like you're not asleep. And I don't know if you had that feeling. You've got the eye mask on, you've got the earplugs in, and you kind of feel like, I don't know, I'm doing this. I'm not really asleep. But I switch that off, and I say to myself, I am going to sit in this chair, whether awake or asleep, for 4.5 hours with my eye mask on, or 6 hours, or whatever, with my eye mask on and my earplugs in, and it doesn't matter if I'm asleep or not. I'm just going to sit here, and I trick myself. And the funny thing is, you do then drop off, and you feel like you look at your watch again.
You're in and out a little bit.
But like when you've had young kids and you're kind of you haven't had quite enough sleep, but you get
you got some.
It's actually enough, and then maybe when you do get there, that night you sleep well, or the next night you sleep really well, and you catch it all back up. Whereas a lot of people, they see the flight itself as a time to watch movies, drink, eat, party, talk to people, and then when they get to where they're going, they wonder why they're not rested. But also they might have got stimulated and they can't get to sleep. So imagine if you basically stayed up all night, and then the place where you arrive, it's the morning, and then you've got to go and do your day's work. That ain't great. So I try to avoid that at all costs.
Wow. So a few tips there, one of which was about the amount of time in the day, and if you're working out where you're going is adding to the day, you need a longer sleep.
More sleep.
So it's not just about how far behind you are in terms of time zone.
At all.
It's about how much sleep you need to catch up with the length of day you've had.
Yeah,
basically.
and also the other thing about the sleep people, Steve, for example, is like, don't worry about it if you have one bad night's sleep. And again, a lot of people have the stress of jet lag, and it keys them up. Whereas really, you want to think, do you know what? I sometimes used to say this to myself: if this plane just flew around the world for 24 hours, I would definitely fall asleep at some point, right? And I might not have the sleep I wanted, and it might not all be in one go. But what if it did it for 48 hours? You know those military planes with refueling? It must be possible they could fly forever. Would I really be awake for the whole time? Actually, people say I can't sleep on planes. Well, I think you can. Everyone can sleep on a plane.
Eventually,
in fact,
you would.
You would fall asleep. So it's accessing that kind of positive mindset.
That was your other tip. Access that positive mindset. Try and switch off that idea that I'm not going to go to sleep, or actually I'll just watch a film. And try and switch that off and get the right level of rest, even if you're not fully asleep, deep asleep, etc.
Rest is a great thought process. Let's get some rest, and then maybe
even just rest your eyes.
Rest your eyes, exactly.
For that amount of time. So that's how we can beat jet lag. What about a hotel when we get there? How do we get a good hotel? Find the right place.
There's a way the world works, Chris, to do this, isn't there?
What's that?
Well, this is what hotel chains are for, and the hotel chains are essentially there to try to provide you exactly the same experience in all the different places. So I do use hotel chains, Chris.
You do?
Yeah.
You'd recommend?
Yeah. I think if you're used to going to a certain hotel chain, I suppose maybe you've got a status card as well, but you know what to expect, and you kind of know what the bed's going to be like, and it also removes a piece of anxiety from the travel experience. I went to China, and I specifically said to the client, I must be booked into a Western style hotel, and one of the chains, and they booked me into a Chinese hotel.
Right.
And I didn't like the mosquito and blood that was smeared over the wall. I didn't like the fact that the bed was just a piece of wood with a mattress on top of it, a very thin mattress.
Yeah.
So, we haven't all got budgets for work that we're all always ecstatic with. But I do think even if you've just built up the familiarity with certain hotel chains, you know how it works. You kind of, at least they're making an effort. And if they do, if you've got a complaint, they look in the system and they see you're a regular traveller there, they'll probably try and sort you out. And I'm also, do you know what? I'm prepared to spend my own personal money if necessary to do that. So in the case of the China trip, the client had booked the whole event in a big hotel, but I wasn't going to get that much sleep. I went and paid my own money to stay at a different hotel, and I just dealt with the socially awkward part of it, which is I had to explain to them why I wasn't staying in the hotel that they booked, which was awkward.
Yeah, but, that's an awkward conversation.
It's funny, isn't it? Work can rob us of our agency and our empowerment. If I'm going on holiday, I can afford to pay for a hotel for a couple of nights. In this case, I was working away for a week or so, and rather than have no sleep and not do a good job, I would rather pay my own money and go and stay somewhere I know and get a good night's sleep.
There we go. So that's how to get that good hotel somewhere that maybe that's familiar.
Yeah, I think
more
so.
Times than,
I know.
than not.
I know some people. I wouldn't do this myself, but I know some people who take their own blanket or pillowcase or whatever with them to cue them to have the good night's sleep. I do. I always sleep with an eye mask at home.
Yeah.
So that helps me if I'm on a plane or in
the
a hotel,
routine of this happens, I go to sleep. We can use those kind of things to trigger ourselves. Yeah. We've booked our flight. We've got our hotel. We'll also have a load of points coming our way. The email is coming through saying we've got these points. What's that all about? Should we be collecting those?
Chris, this is one of the biggest conundrums in business travel. I think points, yes. Status, no.
Right. Okay.
For airlines.
Yeah.
For hotels, it's the other way around. Status, yes.
Oh, really?
Points, don't. I don't know. I used to desperately try to get airline status because I wanted to achieve the lifetime's goal of achieving gold. Chris, I achieved gold.
Well done you.
I was very happy I had more than one gold. And I achieved those goals by spending enormous amounts of time and effort in the pursuit of gold, including taking flights at the wrong time of day, flights that were too expensive, flights that I didn't need to, flights that 2 or even 3 stopped when I didn't need to, just to get gold. And then when I got gold, what I realized is it doesn't do anything for you. In that, if you mainly travel for business and you've got gold, then you're probably taking a business class flight anyway if it's long haul, and your gold doesn't really do much for you. So the airlines, the gold, imagine if you're traveling enough to get gold all the time you're traveling.
Yeah.
When you then go on your holiday, do you need gold? Are you okay just for one sleep? You could sit in economy, or do you really want to go to the lounge? I was desperate to get these lounges, and then when I realised there's just bad food and a relatively comfy seat, whereas in the restaurant in the airport there's good food and quite a comfy seat. Why not just go to the restaurant in the airport and spend €20 on a meal rather than spending £250,000 trying to get gold? So yeah, I mean the status cards not necessarily that good. I'm a big believer in the credit card reward systems that do also give you airline points.
Right.
I think that means when you're buying toilet paper, you're getting airline points. When you're buying holiday, you're getting airline points. When you're buying food, you can get points. And you can aggregate up those points, and then you can use that to get you an upgrade. And then you can go on holiday with your cheap economy flight, your companion voucher, and your air miles. And you can say to your other half or your kids, wow, look at what we're doing here, guys. Yeah. And they can say, oh, thanks, Dad.
That's a good thought, isn't it?
Yeah. But the
doing
points,
all your work,
the points, yes.
Through the points.
I would say though that a lot of those cards. So I use the Amex card. That'll get you through the business class security check-in. It gives you a discount on hire cars and an upgrade. It gives you a hotel upgrade option in more than one hotel chain. So I pay like £500 a year to buy a credit card that does a lot of the upgrading for me.
Right.
You know, I like an upgrade.
Yeah. You like an upgrade. We should talk about that. How do you get that upgrade?
Chris, how do you get an upgrade? We've done a few. We've done a few. I don't know if we've got upgrades together.
We've done a few, and obviously it involves going to the desk, speaking to a person. There's some influence involved, but ultimately they will decide whether they give you that upgrade. Yeah. What would be your tips?
Well, the first thing is you shouldn't really bother on short haul flights.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't sit in economy on a short haul flight for 2 hours in basically the same seat.
It's just the front or the back of the plane.
A320, nice A320 Neo.
Yeah.
You're going to be there for 2 hours. Do you really? And if you try it on, you're just
there's no point kicking up a fuss.
How small-minded. If you really wanted to sit there, it's another £100.
Yeah.
And you could have booked that if it's so desperate.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't waste your powder on the short haul. The flip side is the long haul is worth it. But the problem is that a lot of people try that. So a bit like in poker where you've got to think about your strategy and then how you're going to deploy. I believe with the upgrades, if you were to do the same thing everyone else does, it's a straight no. So Chris, if it's your birthday, that's in the passport, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're traveling with your other half, we've just got engaged, it's our wedding. Okay, they do try and do something about that, but there's a lot of people try to.
Yeah.
If you, I could really do with a good night's sleep. I've not been very well. Like please, you should upgrade me. Do you know who I am? There's a lot of those check-in staff. They've dealt with everything. So anything that fits into the bracket is just a straight no.
Yeah, anything cliche.
Anything
annoying.
An
excuse or annoying. Yeah, it's just
especially
annoying.
if you're trying to pressurize someone. So I try to be charming to everyone because I believe that that's what you should do in life. And I especially do it in people in hospitality jobs, check-in staff, air staff, hotel staff. They have to deal with a lot. So I'm always charming, but I will ask them the most simple question, which is the flight overbooked?
Simple question. Yeah.
If it is, then I know that there's always a chance they're going to move someone. And if it is overbooked and they need to move someone, I'm happy for them to move me. And I'll make them an offer and say, if the flight's overbooked, do you know what? I've got nothing to get home for, and I'm not in a hurry. If you need to, you could move me onto a different flight, and or if there's any other way I can help you, like for example, moving to premium economy. And
they might take you up on it.
That has worked a lot, actually, Chris. I travel a lot by myself.
Yeah.
And I think check-in staff and staff at airports are quite happy to help you out if you're able to help them.
Yeah.
If you try and pressurize them in any way,
they're going to see through it. And,
it's like school teachers. Like, I haven't done my homework because my dog ate it. Like excuses and lies and manipulation.
Yeah.
They're kind of
just
they can spot that, and
it's not a good idea, is it? No. What about making friends when you're traveling alone? As you go through the security gates, as you're milling around before you get your flight, on the flight, you're sat next to someone, perhaps a complete stranger.
Yeah, my
should
kids
be
hate
networking.
This. My kids hate this. I think as I said before, I think the check-in staff, the security staff, I always try to take the feeling that you could cheer them up and make their day. They've got a difficult job to do. The immigration people, I wouldn't mess around with them. And the security people, don't make any bad jokes with them. But yeah, I mean, these are just people, aren't they? And it's the same with a bus driver or a train ticket inspector. They're doing their job, and the more friendly and encouraging and helpful you can be to them, the more you can give, I believe, the more they give back. And I do feel like I was traveling recently through Heathrow, and I had my card that may or may not let me through the lane. I'm not, in some terminals it doesn't let you through, but so I get that out and I just say to the guy, hi there, how are you? I'm not traveling business, but I've got this credit card which I think lets me through the lane. And I don't think it did let me through it, but they did. And I feel like that's the way the world works. If you're friendly and outgoing and generous and kind, and it's not necessarily even that guy, it's the demeanor that you have, that's how you're going to operate. Then all these people, we were flying to Germany, weren't we? And we just said to the lazy, our flight's not for a few hours, but I see that this other one's been delayed.
Any chance we can get on that one? Yeah.
You've probably had quite a busy day dealing with all this, but is there any chance we can? She said, well, got any bags? Oh yeah, never travel with checked luggage. We don't have any checked bags. Yeah, okay. Well, and then I got a message from Lufthansa saying, I'm so sorry that your
flight got moved.
Yeah. And I think, but the helpful airline staff, they know how to get around it. In fact, one of my trips to Munich, I was going for a very important meeting. I was flying in the morning. I didn't have much time. And the lady on the internal ticket desk did break the rules to get me on a different flight. It was just because she realised she could, and she was prepared to help as well. Yeah. And I know for a fact because she was kind of looking like this, and she said don't
really
tell anyone I did this, and then presses some codes and voila, they've helped you out.
Yeah, and that comes from them wanting to help you out, not because you're pressuring them into it, but because you've been very friendly and very warm, and
yeah.
you've seen how they might be feeling, and they feel.
It comes back to our old friend empathy and stepping into their shoes.
There we go.
If you're in your own shoes, like give me this.
No.
But if you try and imagine that they've had a long and difficult day, especially if something's delayed, they've worked through thousands of cancellations, and they have dealt with many difficult customers, and you kind of set yourself out from the start that you're not one of those. Then you're someone that's worth helping, I think.
Great stuff. So if we've done that, we've got our flight at the right time, we've had our travel, we've been very friendly to everyone, we've got our upgrade, we've got to our hotel, which is what we know, it's very friendly. Now we've got that problem of trying to sleep at the right time of perhaps it's a slight adjustment to our body clock, but at night, going to bed, how do we sleep in a place that's entirely different?
The thing that stops me sleeping is worrying about the next day, especially for work trips. Often you've got something, a big meeting, a deal, a workshop, so a sales meeting. So the one part of that is the travel, and then the other part is whether you're actually adrenalized. And I think the best thing to realize is this is true for all of life. It's okay to be awake in the night, and worrying about being awake in the night, that stops you sleeping. I'm sure you've had this at home. You kind of wake up, think, I wish I was asleep.
Is the worrying worse than being awake? You think?
Yeah. So travel, we should accept that we're going to have some disruptions. But as I've mentioned before, I try and use the time zone combined with the flight times to bring me into a city or a country with a plan already that I know I'm going to go to sleep. If I've done a long flight, I might try and do some exercise. If it's the morning, to try and wake myself back up. Daylight, if I'm trying to get into the time zone. But I try and put the time zones and other things to one side, and I don't follow the main advice that everyone else has. You know what that is?
Set your watch.
Yeah.
To the new time.
I think it's really important to know what time zone your body's in, because that tells you why you're not sleeping. It also, sometimes you get really unquestionably hungry if you haven't got a good track of where you've been. So like I've been in far-flung lands feeling really weak, and then I realised, because it's dinner time back home, I probably should be eating something now. So I think try and take a bit of account of where you were and where you are. And if you think about it, like imagine the day in blocks of 6 hours. If I'm going to Australia, for example, or New Zealand, fly to New Zealand, break it up into 24 hours into 6 hours. You've got to sleep for 2 of those. Doesn't matter which 2. Yeah. And if you were to get 12 hours sleep on that journey, as an example, going to far-flung lands, you know what there is in the airport in Dubai? Hotel in the airport, yeah. So if I'm flying a really long way, like I did this coming back from Singapore, for example, I might fly the 3 or 4 hours to Dubai, bunk into a hotel for 3 or 4 hours, get 3 or 4 hours solid sleep, then get my next flight. You can actually break the journey up like that. Actually, I also, if I'm flying into places that got a hotel directly at the airport, I use that a lot. Land into the US at 6 o'clock US time, which is 12 o'clock UK time. Walk across the concourse, go straight into a hotel and go to sleep. Sleep 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. Wake up at 3 a.m, having had 8 or 9 hours sleep. You feel like $1 million. Go to the gym, maybe. Or maybe just lay in bed for a bit, go to the gym. And then you're awake at 4 or 5 in the morning. I mean, I wake up at 5 in the morning here. But you're awake at 5 in the morning having had 10 hours sleep and gone to the gym. You feel amazing. So if the other horrible thing about travel is when you arrive and you've got to get further 2 hours away, your hotels, then you realise you're in the traffic in
you're in a taxi and you start falling asleep and you're like, do I sleep? That's a horrible feeling. Actually nailing it, having that plan of knowing when you're going to go to sleep is half the battle.
So that is part of it. And also, so those airport hotels, there's Gatwick Airport. If you've got that horrible EasyJet flight at 6 a.m, there is a hotel right there that you can walk across the concourse. The TWA hotel at JFK used to be the TWA terminal. It's one of the most beautiful hotels in the world. But the main good thing about it is it's right there. You don't have to get up an extra hour early. So I'll gamble on those when you're right in the airport. And I specifically mean ones that connected, not ones that are a short taxi ride away.
Right.
You take out so much of the time that you can afford to gamble on going to your flight late, or you can get straight into bed. Yep. And I really like those. And in fact, I could point you to those hotels everywhere around the world. The Arlanda Hotel in Stockholm, for example, right in the airport. So if you're going in there, pop into that.
It's a great tip. Airport hotels.
Yeah.
What about what we're packing? So we're getting there, we're opening up the suitcase. Perhaps you realised, I don't have that thing that I should have. What should we have put in that case?
Chris, when you travel for business, in general, you are going to a city. And that city has maybe 8 million people or 3 million people. Or it has everything that you ever need. All the stuff that you ever wanted, they also have there. So like I try and escape the holiday tourist mindset. And this is slightly national stereotypes, but Americans seem to travel with an incredible amount of bags. America, what is wrong with you with your massive suitcases? If I'm traveling, it's the thing that I know that they've got in other countries that we also have here is washing machines. And so if I'm going for like 2 or 3 weeks, just take a few days' clothes and throw them in the washing machine. If you're on holiday, our family holiday, everyone's got hand luggage. I guarantee to the family I'll do a wash every 3 or 4 days, bring 3 days worth of clothes. I mean, we went to Brazil, we traveled around for 2.5 weeks. Everyone's got hand luggage. We can take those upgrades. We can change those flight times. We can avoid carting massive bags around. Yeah. We can throw things in the taxi. We can go here and there because we're unencumbered by baggage, Chris.
There you go.
So the first thing is HLO, hand luggage only.
Hand luggage only.
Yeah.
Strip it back. I quite like the competitive element of how light can you go, especially a short haul trip. Can you go rucksack?
Yeah, but it's like atomic half-lives.
Yeah.
So if you when you go on holiday, family holiday, the first year you come back, half the stuff's not used, yeah? So then you say to yourself, this is what you should do. Actually, I won't take half the stuff next year. So you slim down, get half the stuff. You go away again. You come back, half of that stuff is not used. Then you go away again, half of that stuff is not used. So like, what do you really need? And I think a lot of people, I mean, I'm not really got a very good sense of dress, and I don't have lots of different outfits. And I just wash my gym wear, and I use a washing machine, wash my clothes. I think just pack super light. Yeah, and do you need lots of options? And a lot of people, they instead of making a decision before they leave, they take everything to make
just in case
they get there.
Yeah.
What am I going to feel like today? What do I need? It's like, look, just get yourself, like, if it's good enough for Mark Zuckerberg, get yourself a little uniform, put 3 or 4 of that t-shirt and a few of those trousers in the bag. Yeah. One pair of those trousers in the bag and a pair of shorts and your gym wear and your swimming trunks and maybe a pair of goggles and go. So I recommend that.
And then we just need our travel adapters, our clickers, and contact lenses.
Yeah, contact lenses is key, isn't it? Yeah. Again, if you travel a lot for work, then it's not really an event to go there. It's just a thing you have to do. Yeah. And I think that many people only travel for holiday and then they're not sure what they're going to. But famously, as I said to the family before we left for holiday recently, have you ever been to a hotel that doesn't have shampoo and conditioner? Do we really need to take that? And then, unfortunately, this one, we were in an apart hotel and it didn't have shampoo and conditioner. So there's a lot of very crackly hair on the heads of the family members that hadn't conditioned. But guess what they did have, Chris?
What did they have?
A shop.
So you can buy some?
Yeah, I just got it.
Great.
I mean, it's funny. Places you go to, they do have shops. Yeah. And the people who live there also want conditioner. So I walked to the Sherpa supermarket and bought some shampoo.
There you go. Easy, Chris.
Easy
when you know how. Appreciate the advice. What about when we're traveling with colleagues? Any advice?
Chris, let's grade colleagues. Okay.
Grade them.
Yeah.
What kind of grades?
Don't want to spend any time with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a certain type of colleague.
Yeah. Don't mind them. Quite like them. Love them.
Okay, it's 4 bands of colleague.
Yeah.
So it depends how much we like them, basically.
I think you got to think through how much it's going to impact you, how closely you want to be wedded to that colleague on the duration of your trip. I used to have a boss who I really loved, but I didn't really want to sit next to on a flight. And so I would always check in myself. And then when he arrived at the airport, I'd say, I've already checked in. Oh, right. Okay. He wanted to sit next to me because I was fun, but I didn't really want to sit next to my boss. So I think you don't have to sit together on flights. So we sometimes take the cross aisle seats on flights, don't we?
Yeah.
Sitting right next to your colleague can be a bit...
Yeah. It can be
across the aisle, you could still chat, but if everyone wants to...
Yeah. If you want to go headphones on, it's fine. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's, again, trying to think through when you're traveling with colleagues, what do they need? What's going to put them in the best light? But also to have grown-up discussions about if you don't want to go to dinner every night, or
Yeah.
if one person wants to drink and the other one not.
Yeah.
People have got their plans of what they want to do. And
Yeah.
I want to do my exercise. I want to eat not too late. I want to go to bed. But some people want to hit the town, party. And
I think it's really worth having those conversations and just saying, how do you travel? How do you like to travel?
Yeah. How do you like to travel, Chris?
I like to have a bit of time to myself, particularly on the flight. I like that. But also at times like to chat. And I guess it comes back to the banding of colleagues of who I'd most like to chat to. But yeah, I most of the time don't mind having more chats and socializing. Also, like a bit of time to myself.
Yeah, the same as your partner at home.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, it's a relationship, isn't it? If you're, what I do like to do, if we're traveling to really far away places, try and get there so you can have a weekend together and do some stuff. It is really fun to inhabit the places you've gone.
Yeah.
When I especially had young kids, I've been to enough places where I went and didn't really see any of it. So I do try and book in the extra day before, the extra day after, or whatever. And ideally with a good colleague, and we could go. Nathan and I've gone riding motorbikes in Vietnam. You and I have had our Bavarian beer hall experiences, but to try and make it more than just a business trip, I think is great. One thing I did learn when I had small kids is that it's good to come home not shattered. And I don't know if I should say this on camera, but I used to occasionally not book the late flight home. So like, let's say I'm finishing up in Hong Kong. I could get an 11 o'clock at night flight back to London and be home to my family, or I could get an 11 o'clock in the morning flight and be back to my family. And I used to get the 11 o'clock in the morning flight. In the end, I realized turning up shattered after being away for a week or two is worse than turning up an extra day late, but being actually really on it for the weekend and being able to step in and do all that stuff. Yeah. So the extra day, the extra night sometimes is worth thinking as an insurance policy. Especially if you've got good colleagues.
Another good tip. And finally, what if we don't speak the language? Any tips?
We all speak one important language, the universal language of body language.
Yeah. Is that just pointing at things?
Yeah. I think go for it. I think it's part of our humanness is to connect with other people and try to, connect with them in some way. And again, coming back to what makes the world go round and what makes a good experience for everybody, I'm sure taxi drivers don't like my broken French, German, Spanish, Chinese. But everyone recognises if you're making an effort. And especially with the apps and the internet these days, it's quite a game. When I'm travelling in Asia and I don't speak the language at all, I like the game of Google translating things and trying to get what they're saying so I can understand, and I say what they can understand, and the pantomime of trying to interact when we don't know what we're talking, how we're talking, and people I think love that. I think that's part of what it means to have a guest from overseas, which could be me, is that they're a fish out of water, and it's what makes us exotic in some ways. We come from far away. Another definition actually of an expert, isn't it? It's someone from somewhere else, and so sometimes we come from far away, and I believe that if you've got the interpersonal, especially the non-verbal communication skills, you can ingratiate and endear yourself to people, and they will take care of you. And sometimes it means you're a bit out of control, but you sometimes have to go with that. I will tell you one funny story from Taiwan. So cultural differences are great, aren't they? But in Taiwan, I was considered the honoured guest when I was there for a week, and they'd asked me, Jonna, how do we make this week good for you? I said, all I really want to do is have a hotel that's right next to the training centre where we're going to be working. And I want to minimise the commute time, and I want to be able to go to sleep because I'm going to have a busy week. But because I was an honoured guest, they booked me a really nice hotel in the city that was an hour and a half drive from the training centre. And then because I was an honoured guest, every day 3 people would pick me up and drive me because I was the honoured guest. And then every night, and on the way home, they wanted to take me to places in Taiwan to show me. The one I most remember is Taiwan's largest indoor garden inside a shopping mall. But basically, because I was an honoured guest, I kind of had to go along with this. And we didn't have a lot of language that we could share, but there was a great connection through this cultural difference. I was obviously shattered, and all my sleep discipline and everything else I do going to the gym got completely wiped out. So I didn't enjoy it, but I did connect.
There you go. Yeah.
I guess
found
that's
that connection.
one of the most memorable trips that I took.
Yeah, and now you're talking about it even to this day.
I can take you to that garden.
That sounds amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be an honoured guest. Before we go, Jonna, tell us, as we travel around the world, what are Interactive Workshops trying to do?
We will get on a plane and we will go anywhere. And I really like that about our company. We've got a yes mentality. I also love face-to-face. And I think even for meetings, it's worth just doing it. We were off to Munich, weren't we, for a meeting. It could have been a video call. But is that what you signed up for in life? Are you here to video call people? I'm not. I want to connect with people. I want to go and meet them. I want to shake their hand. I want to look them in the eye. I want to spend time having a coffee together. And I guess our business was based on face-to-face when we first started running workshops. We now obviously make a ton of digital content and we do a lot of virtual work as well. But I would say that that's the main thing, is that we will go and we'll get to wherever we need to be to do our jobs and to do a good job. And that is the essence of human communication. And it's actually what a family member would say to you. If you go to university or something, your parents will say to you, if you need me to come, I will come. If you were on holiday somewhere and you had an accident and you called home and said, could you come and see me? Your friends and family would say, wherever in the world you need me, that's where I'll be. And I think that's the kind of ethos that we take in terms of projects, is that we will do what it takes to get where we need to be. And if that means 3 weeks in Vietnam, we will go there and we'll do it. And if it means some of my shortest trips, 1.5 hours in Washington, 3 hours in Nairobi. I've done a day in China. These are things I had to heavily carbon offset. I'll just caveat that. But, to be good in consulting and especially in the work we do of learning development, sometimes they want a specific person in a certain place. We will get them there.
We'll get there. Fantastic. Jonna, thank you for being our expert travel advice.
Yeah. Sponsored by Amex, Expedia, Booking.com, and Colgate toothpaste.
Send us all those points.
Worldwide.
Thank you, Jonna. See you next time.
See you next time.